إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على سبيله إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So in continuing, inshallah ta'ala, through the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, of the things I wanted us to take time and ponder over is the Islam of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. No, sorry. Of the things that we spoke about before, was the Islam of Hamza. No, radiyallahu anhu. Now we have the situation of the Islam of Umar ibn Khattab. Of the thing that is mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ayyada al-Islam wal-Muslimin bi-Islam al-Faruq Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Allah aided the Muslims with the Islam of Al-Faruq. Al-Faruq is like the criterion, i.e. the one who distinguishes between truth and falsehood. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu prior to his Islam was known for his stern animosity towards the Muslims. And he was of those who was feared because he was someone that was known to be very strong and of high status. Yeah, he had those characteristics that would put fear in the people's hearts. And he was kind of min ashad nas adawat lil-Muslimin. He was from those who had the most enmity towards the Muslims. From this as well, we have to learn something very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides whomsoever He wills. You'll see a person, and they may, from what you can see, you say this person will never become Muslim. That's not for you. لا تحكم على أي أحد بالكفر الأبدية إلا إذا مات على كفر وأنت تعلم ذلك. Don't judge upon a person that there will be a kafir for eternity unless you come to know that this person died as a disbeliever with certainty. As for a person's future, لا يعرفها إلا الله. No one knows it except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this person, Umar ibn Khattab, at one stage was an enemy of the Muslims. Then became one of the most beloved, Islam to Allah, one of the most beloved figures within Islam. And he mentioned ما رواه إمام أحمد وابن حبان في صحيحه بسند حسن عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم أعز الإسلام ابن الخطاب فكان أحبهما إليه عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. The Prophet Muhammad said, Ya Allah, honor, give aid, give might, strengthen Islam with the most beloved of these two men to you. And with out of one of the two that you love the most, out of who? Abu Jahl and Umar ibn Khattab. They were the most strongest figures among the Muslims, among the Quraysh at that time. So one of them become a Muslim without a shadow of a doubt. This will aid in aiding the da'wah, in aiding the call to Islam. Because imagine in that time all of the chieftains were opposing Islam. All of them against Islam. High authority now embracing Islam that will facilitate those to call others to Islam. And also as we know, when people that are considered to be prominent figures, when they embrace Islam, it has an impact on others. Look how many celebrities of recent, they've embraced Islam. And we ask them to guide them, make them firm, and exchange their bad deeds for good, and exchange their past of what they may have been known for sin, for now, goodness. Because this has an impact on the da'wah. Because people in this day and age, they are fans. They cling on to personalities. So if they see someone who was someone that was their role model, they follow this person for a long period of time, this person not embraced Islam. They start to then see a series of changes in that person's life. Now, for example, a prominent boxer, he became Muslim recently. And there was an interview with him, and one of the things that he mentioned in this interview, he says he stopped drinking alcohol. And this is prior to him becoming Muslim. He said he stopped drinking. So they asked, why is that? He said, because I realized what it was doing to me. Every time I got intoxicated, a different character came out that's not me. Either it's very angry or something else. And that's why Islam, from the maqasid of the Sharia, is al-muhafadha al-aql, preserving the mind, the intellect. So everything that affects the mind, the intellect, has been prohibited. You see. And Allah knows what's in a person's heart. Allah knows those who is deserving of His guidance. Allah guides whomsoever He wills. So the Prophet Muhammad made this dua. Which of them is most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he asked Allah to guide them. Also, in another ayah, mentions, Allahumma shdud dinaka bi ahabbihima ilayk. Oh Allah, strengthen your religion with the most beloved of the two to you. Also was mentioned by Al-Hakim في المستدرك بسند الصحيح عن عائشة عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم أعز الإسلام بعمر بن الخطاب خاصة. That he asked Allah to specifically strengthen Islam with Umar ibn Khattab. Of the things that they mentioned regarding the story of Umar, remember he was one of the most staunch towards the Muslims, the most stern. They started to see things in his character change. I mentioned, as we said previously, من أشد الناس عداوة للمسلمين. He was of those who had the most enmity towards the Muslims. حتى يئس بعض المسلمين من إسلامهم. To the point, some, as we mentioned, that we shouldn't have this approach, they lost hope in his Islam. They had no hope that he would ever become Muslim because of the enmity that he had towards the Muslims. لكن لما أراد الله له الهداية صدرت منه رضي الله عنه بعد التصرفات التي تعطي الأمل بإسلامه. They mentioned when Allah wanted to guide him, they started to see changes in his behavior that gave hope towards his. Now, this wasn't witnessed by everyone. That's why some may have witnessed it, but some will say, no, this is not the case. I mentioned Imam Ahmed, he narrates in his book Fadail al-Sahaba, والحاكم بسند حسن, says this hadith is Hasan, and Abdullah Layla binti Abi Hathama رضي الله عنها زوج الصحابي الجليل عامر ibn Rabi'a رضي الله عنه. So she is the wife of Amir ibn Rabi'a رضي الله عنهما. قالت إنا لنرتحل إلى أرض الحبشة وقد ذهب عامر في بعض حاجاتنا إذ أقبل عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه حتى وقف عليه وهو على شركه. So I mentioned we was preparing to travel to Abyssinia. Why? That was the first hijrah. Now, and Amr, who's her husband, had gone to deal with some of their needs in preparation to go. And she mentioned, but suddenly Umar ibn Khattab stopped upon me whilst he was still upon shirk. And she mentioned, قالت وكنا نلقى منه البلاء أذى لنا وشدة علينا. We used to find from him so much test and calamity and harm and sternness upon us. فقال Umar رضي الله عنه, he said, إنه الانطلاق يا عبد الله. is it that you're moving, O Abdullah? Is it that you're moving? فقالت قلت نعم والله لنخرجن في أرض الله آذيتمونا وقهرتمونا حتى يجعل الله لنا مخرجا فقال صحبكم الله. So he mentioned, she said to him, Na'am, by Allah, we are leaving to the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, within the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have harmed us and subdued us under your power until Allah placed a means for us to escape, a way out for us. What was his response? May Allah accompany you. So hearing this, in that moment, is going to be what? Strange. How many people experience this? You know, someone's close to you, you want a friend of yours, they're not Muslim, you want their Islam for them, and you try to give them da'wah, the response is stern. And then gradually you find the door is slowly being opened. They start to welcome the conversation until they get a bit frustrated, say, okay, that's enough. Next thing you know, there's a full-on debate. Next thing you know, they're sending you messages. What does Islam say about this? Allah opens a person's heart when Allah wills. Allah knows when a person is deserving of his guidance. Allah knows whom is deserving of his guidance. So you see the situation. Umar said, Sahibakumullah. These are people that he was dealing with in the harshest of ways moments ago. And she's even said it. You have harmed us, controlled us, until Allah has no way out for us. He said, may Allah accompany you. May Allah be with you as you traverse. So instantly, قالت عبد الله ورأيت له رقة لم أكن أراها ثم انصرف. She said, I saw a softness from him that I've never seen. And then he moved, then he left. Imagine before, they were punishing the Muslims. Any moment they would throw things at them, they would curse them. But here he said the fewest of words. May Allah accompany me. لم يكن بأسماء آلهتهم أصنامهم. He didn't use the names of the idols. He said, صحبكم الله. May Allah be your companion. هذا من عمر الخطاب وهو من أشد عداوة للمسلمين. This was someone who was the worst of the enemies to the Muslims, saying something like this. Of course, something is totally different now. There's definitely something that's happened. And that's why I never judge a person by saying they are never going to change. They will always be the same. Al-qalb bayna isba'i ar-Rahman. The heart has been the two fingers of Ar-Rahman. He changes it howsoever he wills. Don't be quick to judge. You see someone today, he must always say, okay, may Allah guide them because his heart is pure. He's always drinking. And I was going to get tea just before madrasa. I'm not going to promote the shop. There's a very nice tea. So if you see me walking with tea, you know it's the tea that I'm referring to. I was meant to get tea earlier. Qadr didn't happen. So I had to get it before madrasa. And as I go to the shop, he comes, he's laughing. He goes to the brother and says, no, you're too young, I have to talk to someone older than you. And you asked me for 50p. I said, you know I can't give that to you. He said, for food. I said, come on, you know it's for alcohol. I said, come, let's have tea. It's the best. It's better than alcohol. It's the best alternative. He starts laughing. See, like, he's drunk. He's always drunk. But he can have a conversation. And he's like, okay, I'm sincerely asking you, I'm going to buy alcohol. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to buy alcohol. I said, then even now, I definitely can't give it to you. And he just laughed. But miskeen, it's like, whenever I see someone who's a drunkard, wallahi, I am more understanding. Because you don't know. The guidance that you have as a Muslim saves you from mishandling trauma. But sometimes a person with no guidance, they take whatever makes them forget what they've experienced. So they are always in a state of being intoxicated, because the moment they become sane, they can remember trauma. Who is the owner who can console the heart and remove that from you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they just don't know. Plant the seeds. Wallahi, plant the seeds of good character. You don't know, they will remember. They will remember. You saw the woman that was stealing from the perfume shop before. And she came and she said, I know. When I stopped her, she said, I know. I was drunk. Can you get angry now? How can you get angry with someone who's come to you and says, look, I'm sorry, I know. I know what I did was wrong, but I was drunk. You already know I'm not there. But you just say something good. Don't talk too long. They can't comprehend. Plant seeds. Plant seeds. Because some people, even though they are drunk, they may not be to the full of gone. They observe how people do that. And you don't know the seed that's planted in the heart. We say, look how I'm drunk, but the Muslims, they always treat me well. They may not give me money to buy alcohol, but they'll buy me food if I needed it. They won't shun me. They won't do me bad. Because you just don't know what impact that kindness will have upon a person. The Muslims in the early stages of the da'wah, they were being oppressed, but they never reciprocated the oppression. They never waited to catch one of the kuffar by themselves in a dark alley. Remember, nighttime, there was nothing but fire. They didn't do any of these things. They were patient. They were forbearing. They accompanied the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They witnessed that he was also being tested with trials and tribulations. So they weren't alone in their hardship. It wasn't only the Muslims who embraced Islam that met the harm of the kuffar of the Quraysh. It was all of them. Even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she mentioned, وَقَدْ أَحْزَنَهُ فِيمَا رَأَى خُرُوجُنَا. She mentioned it even seemed as if it saddened him that we was leaving. This is someone who yesterday wanted to kill you. But now that you're leaving, making hijrah, he's saying, may Allah accompany you. He seems saddened that you're departing, that you're leaving. قالت فجاء عامر. Her husband came, زوجها. فقلت له يا أبا عبد الله. She said, oh Abu Abdullah, oh Father Abdullah. لو رأيت عمر آنفا ورقته وحزنه علينا قال أطمعت في إسلامه قالت نعم. And here's you're going to see, that's what I said. You know when some people doesn't witness things, they will say, yeah, mustahil, impossible, abadan, no chance. She said, oh Abu Abdullah, if only you saw Umar just now, and his softness and his sadness upon us, his sadness for us, the fact that we're going to leave, he said to her straight away, do you have hope in his Islam? She said, na'am. He said, قال لا يسلم الذي رأيت حتى يسلم حمار الخطاب. He said, the one you saw will never become Muslim until the donkey of Khattab becomes Muslim. That's the level of despair that they had. This is what they saw of his animosity to the Muslims. This person become Muslim, you must be off your rocket. No chance. No, it's not possible. Look, they said the donkey is like, when we make the comparison of the donkey as the parable, it shows stupidity. You heard the donkey brain. You heard the son of the donkey? Who hasn't heard the son of the donkey? If you haven't heard the son of the donkey, just search it on YouTube after the class. Well, like the first time I heard it, I was like, Allah Mustaan, what is that? And I was in Morocco in the mountains. Imagine in the mountains, it's dark and you're hearing, I can't even do the sound. But it sounds like something is being strangled and it's horrible. So Allah mentioned, Inna ankara aswati la sawtul hamir. The worst sound is the sound of the donkey. And a Muslim shouldn't be loud and over energetic in their speech, so that you sound similar to this. See, it's a bad comparison. You calling someone a donkey in the Arab world is worse than every swear word you know in English. Yeah, literally. You saying to someone you are a donkey, and to himar, bloodshed. Instant. That is of the worst things that you can say to a person. You see? So he mentioned that one you saw will never become Muslim until the donkey of Al-Khattab becomes Muslim. You see? قال عامل ذلك يأسا لما كان يرى من غلته وقسوته على الإسلام. He said that is because of what he saw of his sternness and the way he was hard in dealing with the Muslims. But she had different knowledge. She had a different experience now. You see? So someone will narrate an experience, but someone has a different experience. Can we now make ta'meem, generality of people? Of the thing that's very dangerous is making ta'meem. See, everyone from this country, they're all the same. La. Everyone with skin color is all the same. La. We don't make ta'meem. We say people, we take them as they are. In every people, there are people who are good and people who are evil. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to only allow us to meet the good of them and protect us from the harms of the evil of them. As we should hope that we are able to be good to others, and that we ask Allah to save others from the harms of ourselves. Now, but again, in the build-up of the Islam of Umar al-Khattab, these are the changes that were observed. I mentioned of those who embraced Islam before Umar was his sister Fatima bint al-Khattab. His sister Fatima قد سبقته إلى الإسلام هي وزوجها سعيد بن زيد وهو أحد العشر مباشرين بالجنة. Her husband Sa'id bin Zayd also embraced Islam with her, and he's from the 10 that's promised Al-Jannah. And he is her cousin. As you know, you can marry your cousin, that's why the cousin is not from the mahram. Of things that people do out of culture, they will free mix with their cousins like it's normal. This is not permissible. Because you're allowed to marry the cousin. The cousin is allowed to be married. Of the things is disliked because of the closeness. Now, however, especially in general times today, it's not something practiced often. No, especially not in the West. But at that time, it was normal. They embraced Islam and they used to hide their Islam. They used to hide their Islam. But Khabbab ibn al-Arat, from the old ones, the elders of the Muslims, he used to come and teach them the Quran. He used to come and teach Fatima and Sa'id ibn Zayd the Quran. This leads to the story of the Islam of Umar ibn Khattab. It mentioned لما رجع عمر إلى بيته أخذ يفكر في أمر ليلى بنت أبي حثمة. Remember what he said, we saw his response to them when they said they were going to make hijrah. When he got home, he started to think about it. And again, he's not going to change overnight, just like this. And even some of the behaviors lead to that which is good. When he's thinking about this, he's thinking, كيف تفرقت قريش? How can they leave Quraysh? وهاجر بعضهم إلى الحبشة. And some of them, they've gone to Abyssinia. فقال كيف يحدث هذا? How did this happen? من وراء كل هذه الأحداث? Who is behind all of these incidents occurring? وراء كل هذه الأحداث محمد. The man behind all of these events is Muhammad, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فعزم على قتل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. At that moment, he was determined to kill the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So خرج متوشحا سيفه يريد قتل الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. He came out with his sword drawn, determined to go and slay the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. I mentioned وقد ذكروا له أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يجتمع مع أصحابه في بيت عند الصفا. And the Prophet it was told to him that the Prophet the Messenger of Allah والسلام, is gathering with his companions in a house in As-Safa, As-Safa, the Mount As-Safa. If anyone goes Umar soon, there is a museum by the Prophet's Masjid, and it's about the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can book it. I think you book it online when you go, or you can line up and get a ticket. But the things I'm just a suggestion. It's not an advertisement of anything. They have like a guided tour within the museum. It's very short. It's not long, but they have a part where they show what Mecca would have looked like at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you can see the distance between where the masjid was and his house and Bayt al-Arqam, where they were secretly giving da'wah. They give you, and it's based on history and authentic sources. They try to build a model of what it would have looked like at the time in Mecca and Medina. So if you have the ability to go, just to get an understanding of the dynamics, the geographical dynamics of the situation in Mecca and Medina at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, this is big ijtihad. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but the closest approximation that they could conclude to. So I mentioned وهم قريب من 40 ما بين الرجال والنساء. They were roughly about 40 in that house, in that gathering. منهم أبو بكر الصديق وعلي بن طالب وحمزة رضي الله عنهم أجمعين. From them, those who were with Abu Bakr and Ali and Hamza. May I be pleased with all of them. And they preferred to stay with the Prophet Muhammad instead of going for Hijrah. Their preference was to stay with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. So Nu'aym ibn Abdullah al-Naham al-Adawi radhi'an, he encountered Umar al-Khattab وكان يخفي إسلامه. He someone also used to hide his Islam. He used to conceal his Islam. فقال أين تريد يا عمر? Where do you want? He said قال أريد محمدا هذا الصابع. He mentioned, I want Muhammad. He said, I'm going to slay Muhammad. And he mentioned to him, الذي فرق أمر قريش, the one who has divided the affairs of the Quraysh, وسفه أحلامها, and also what's it called, like insulted the ambitions, the dreams, وَعَابَ دِينَهَا, and also criticized their religion, the religion of the people of Quraysh, وَسَبَّ آلِهَتَهَا, and also cursed their deities. فَأَقْتُلَهُ, so I'm going to kill him. قال له النعيم والله لقد غرتك نفسك يا عمر أترى بني عبد مناف وبني زهرة تاركيك تمشي على الأرض وقد قتلت محمدا. He said, you have deceived yourself. Now, you have deceived yourself. He said, how will you save yourself from Bani Abd Manaf and Bani Zuhra after you have killed Muhammad? He mentioned, أَفَلَا تَرْجِعُ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِ بَيْتِكَ فَتُقِيمَ أَمْرَهُمْ. He said, why don't you go to your home? Why don't you go to your home and establish your affair? قال وأي أهل بيتي. He said, and which of my home? He mentioned, this thing that is troubling you, go to your home. Because this Islam that is bothering you has already entered your house. So he said, who from my family? He said, قال أختك فاطمة وزوجها. Your sister Fatima and her husband. قد والله أسلم. By Allah, they both embraced Islam. وتابع محمدا على دينه وترك دينك الذي أنت عليه. They followed the Prophet in his religion and left the religion that you are still upon. فارجع إلى أهل بيتك فأقم أمرهم. So go home to your family and then establish the matter upon them. فرجع عمر رضي الله عنه عامدا إلى أخته وزوجها. Umar, he returned intending to come to his sister and her husband. With them is who? Khabbab ibn Arat, teaching them the Quran. And he had a page of Surah Al-Taha that he was reciting to them. وكان خباب, now he used to go and teach them Quran. And also, so yeah, the Prophet said from what was known, what was the practice that was known, when someone embraced Islam, newly embraced Islam, he would send a man or two to aid them if the owner has to give them food and the likes. And of the ones that were sent to the sister of Umar and her husband was Khabbab. Now, when they heard of Umar coming, تغيب خباب في مخدع. Khabbab, he hid within a smaller place within the house. Also, at this time, Fatima took the page of the Quran and hid it under her thighs. وقد سمع عمر حين دنا إلى بيت قراءة خباب. But Umar had heard as he approached the recitation of خباب. فلما دخل عليهما قال ما هذه الهينمة. He mentioned ما هذه الهينمة. الهينمة بمعنى what is this هينمة الكلام الخفي الذي لا يفهم. It's it's speech that is not understood. A person that's far won't be able to make out what's being said. التي سمعتها عندكم, that I heard with you. فقال ما عدا حديثا تحدثناه بيننا. She said it's nothing but speech that we were exchanging between ourselves. فقال فلعلكما قد سبوتما. He mentioned maybe both of you have renounced your faith. فقالت فاطمة أو قال له سعيد زيد زوج فاطمة. Fatima's husband Sa'id ibn Zayd, he mentioned to Umar ibn Khattab, يا عمر أرأيت إن كان الحق على في غير دينك. He mentioned, oh Umar, have you not seen that possible truth is in other than your religion? فضرب عمر سعيد بن زيد ضربة شديدة فسقط. Umar, he hit Sa'id so hard that he dropped. فقامت فاطمة لتمنع زوجها سعيدا من عمر فضربها عمر فشجها حتى سال منها الدم. When Fatima got up to care for her husband, he hit his sister. And when he hit her, blood started to run from her face. He opened her face when he struck her. When Umar ibn Khattab did this to them, they said, نعم قد أسلمنا وآمنا بالله ورسوله فاصنع ما بدا لك. They said, yes, we have embraced Islam and we believe in Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do whatever you deems right to you. Do whatever you want to do. mentions لما رأى عمر ما بأخته من الدم ندم على ما صنع ورعى. He mentioned when he saw what he had done to his sister and the face and the blood on her face, he became very remorseful from his actions. So he held himself back and allowed himself to come down. فقال لأخته أعطيني هذه الصحيفة التي سمعتكم تقرؤونها آنفا. He said, give me the page that I heard you reading before. انظر ما هذا الذي جاء به محمد. And I can look at what Muhammad has come with. وكان عمر يقرأ ويكتب. Umar during this time was of those who was able to read and write. You know, الأمة Islam الأوائل كان أمية. The nation was illiterate. Majority of the people were illiterate. There's only a few who could read and write. Umar al-Khattab was of those who could read and write. فقالت له أخته فاطمة إن نخشاك عليها. She said, we fear you regarding it. That you may destroy it or something. وكان عمر يقول لا تخافي وحلف لها بآلهته ليردنها إليها إذا قرأها. He took oath by his deities that he would, after reading it, return it back to them. And remember, despite the transgressions of the Quraysh, truthfulness is something that they held dear. Lying was something that was always a characteristic that was never praised. It was always frowned upon to be someone who's known for lying, known to be not truthful. So فلما قال ذلك طمعت في إسلامه. She said when he said that, she had hope in his Islam. فقال له يا أخي إنك نجس على شركك وإنه لا يمسها إلا المطهرون. She said, oh my brother, you are najis, you are impure because of your shirk. And no one can touch the Quran except for those who are purified. فقم فاغتسل. Said so, get up and wash. فقام عمر فاغتسل فأعطته الصحيفة. He got up, he performed the ghusl. Then she gave him the page. فقرأ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى الرحمن على العرش استوى. The first 5 ayat of Surah Al-Taha حتى انتهى إلى قوله, until he read until إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري. Until he reached ayah number 40 where it mentions, indeed I am Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is none worthy of worship with truth except for me, so worship me and establish the salah in my remembrance. فرق قلبه وقال ما أحسن هذا الكلام وأكرمه. He mentioned this opened his heart. He said how amazing, how beautiful this speech and how noble. ما ينبغي لمن يقول هذا الكلام أن يعبد معه غيره. It's not befitting for anyone who says such speech that anyone is worshipped besides him. دلوني على محمد. Show me to Muhammad. Take to Muhammad. فلما سمع ذلك خباب خرج إليه فقال له أبشر يا عمر. Khabbab, he was hiding all this time. This goes to show you how much they feared Umar, subhanAllah. Khabbab was hiding all this time. We forgot about Khabbab. But when Khabbab heard this statement of Umar, they take me to Muhammad, he came out. He came out and said, Abshir ya Umar. Don't worry, Umar. فإني والله لأرجو أن يكون الله قد خصك بدعوة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, I hope that Allah has chosen you with the dua of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. فإني سمعته وهو يقول اللهم أعز الإسلام بعمر بن الخطاب أو بعمر ibn Hisham. He said, because I heard the Messenger of Allah say, oh Allah, give honor and victory to Islam with Umar ibn Khattab or Amr ibn Hisham, who was Abu Lahab. فالله الله يا عمر فقال له عمر فدلني يا خباب على محمد حتى آتيه فأسلم. He said to Khabab, show me to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu until I come to him and I embrace Islam. فقال له خباب هو في دار أرقم بن أبي الأرقم بأسفل الصفا. He mentioned he is in the home of Dar al-Arqam. I remember this house is significant because that was the house that the da'wah of Islam was kept in secret. And he mentioned to him, that's where he is. معه نفر من أصحابه, and there's a group with him from the Sahaba. فأخذ عمر سيفه فتوشحه. He said he drew his sword, he took his sword and he drew his sword. ثم انطلق إلى رسول الله وأصحابه في دار الأرقم. And then he went to the house where the Prophet Muhammad's companions were in Dar al-Arqam. فضرب الباب, and he knocked the door. فقام رجل من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فنظر من خلل الباب. And one person of the Sahaba got up and looked through the hole of the door to see, like a gap in the door, to see who it was. فرآه متوشحا السيف, and he saw him that with his sword drawn. فرجع إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو فزع, and he hastened back to the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم in a state of fear. فقال يا رسول الله هذا عمر الخطاب متوشحا السيف. He mentioned this is Umar al-Khattab and he has his sword drawn. ووجل القوم, everyone became fearful. فقال لهم حمزة رضي الله عنه ما لكم؟ قالوا عمر الخطاب. فقال افتحوا له الباب فإن كان جاء يريد خيرا فإن بذلناه له وإن كان جاء يريد شرا قتلناه بسيفه. He mentioned, and Hamza, remember Hamza was someone who was courageous. Another one who Allah gave honor and victory to the Muslims with, the Islam of Hamza. He mentioned, what's wrong with you? They said, Umar Khattab. He said, open the door. If he wants good, then we will give him goodness. If he wants evil, then we will kill him with his own sword. We will kill him with his own sword. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذن له, allow him to enter. ففتحوا له ونهض إليه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى لقيه. I mentioned they opened the door for him and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم go up towards him until he met him. فأخذ بمجامع ثوبه ثم جذبه جذبة شديدة فما تمالك عمر أن وقع على ركبتيه على الأرض. فقال له صلى الله عليه وسلم ما جاء بك يا ابن الخطاب فوالله ما أرى أن تنتهي حتى ينزل الله بك قارعة. So I mentioned when he came, the Prophet grabbed him by his clothes and kind of held him tight and shook him tight until Umar couldn't control himself. He fell on his knees. Fell on his knees, and the Prophet said to him, what has brought you? What has brought you? Because by Allah you will not turn back from your path, and Allah sends down on you such a chastisement upon you. And you can see now there's a major change of affairs. Imagine someone come with their sword drawn, but now they're on their knees. On their knees in front of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Long ago, what was his intention? To kill. But now he's on his knees in front of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, it showed the Prophet didn't fear. The Muslim does not fear, knowing that whatever Allah has decreed is going to afflict that person. La mahala. Death will come to you no matter where you are. If you turn away from the command of Allah, death will come to you in your bed. The one who has decreed to take your life will come to you wherever you are. The Muslim does not fear. They take the means and they trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you can message me privately, because that's got nothing to do with the lesson at all. That's got nothing to do with the lesson at all. And just a benefit when it comes to lessons, it's not from wisdom to ask a question that has nothing to do with the lesson. Okay? That question has nothing to do with the lesson at all. So as we mentioned, the Prophet, when he told him, what have you come for? He said, Ya Rasulullah, ji'tu li'u'mina billahi wa bi rasulihi. Wa bima ja'a min 'indillah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan 'abduhu wa rasuluhu. He mentioned, he said, O Messenger of Allah, I have come to believe in Allah and His Messenger, and with that which He has come with from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I bear witness there's none worthy of worship in truth except Allah, He has no partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his worshipper and messenger. We don't say slave. Now this is not the correct translation. Say worshipper. Abd means abid, worshipper. Now and his messenger. فكبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تكبيرة عرف منها أهل البيت من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن عمر قد أسلم وكبر الصحابة رضي الله عنهم تكبيرة سمعها أهل مكة. He mentioned that they said that Allahu Akbar, that everyone heard of the home, they knew that Umar had embraced Islam. And everyone said Allahu Akbar until what? Until it was heard among the whole inhabitants of Mecca. That's of the things that is mentioned regarding his Islam. Of the things that is mentioned as well, when these stories that have been mentioned regarding the Islam of Umar, the narrations of them are da'if. These narrations of the stories of the Islam of Umar that have been narrated, they are da'if. Of the things that is mentioned in general, that is widespread, what is known, the general story of Islam, obviously his sister did precede him in embracing Islam. You have other stories that are da'if jiddan. That are da'if jiddan. Now, so here, in any circumstance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the heart of Umar al-Khattab to embrace Islam. Also, and when the Muslim, this is the general story that is mentioned regarding the Islam of Umar al-Khattab. This aided the Muslims. This aided the Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always aid the Muslims. Either by way of ayat, either by way of signs, or by way of Islam, of people that will bring aid to the Muslims by power and influence. Such was the case with Umar al-Khattab. Also was mentioned by Imam Bukhari in Sahih and Abdullah bin Mas'ud al-An, قال ما زلنا أعزة منذ أسلم عمر بن الخطاب. We still remained the ones who are honored and given might since the Islam of Umar ibn Khattab. That changed things drastically. And as I said before, this was something that was not expected. But as you can see, things change at a very fast and quickly. No one expected, rather they thought the opposite. And despite he wanted to go to embrace Islam, he still had his sword drawn. But again, no one knows who Allah has willed guidance for. No one knows who Allah has willed guidance for. Allah guides whomsoever He wills. Of the things that was mentioned, some of the scholars of Tafsir, they mentioned of the things that was revealed regarding Umar and Abu Jahl, but Ibn Kathir says what's correct is that it is what? It's am for every believer and disbeliever. But it mentions أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So here it mentions is the one who was dead, but we gave life to him and we made him walk upon that with light. We made for him a light that he walks upon among the people. Is he like the one who is in darkness and is never going to come out of it? That such is the case of how that which the disbelievers were doing had been beautified for them. But Ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentions this ayah is general for every believer and disbeliever. The one who was upon disbelief and given iman, this is the likeness of someone who was dead and has been given life. As for the one who is still upon disbelief, then this is the one who is in darkness and continues to be in a state of darkness. Al-Hidayah min Allah Ta'ala, the guidance from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. وَالْعِلْمُ هُوَ الْقُرْآنُ وَالسُّنَّةُ هَذَا هُوَ النُّورُ. Knowledge, which is the Quran and Sunnah, this is the light that is being referred to. The light, which is the guidance that a person learns and derives from the Quran and the Sunnah, this is the light that Allah has given to those whom He has guided. As for those who Allah has not opened their heart, those who disbelieve, those who prefer the worldly life, then they are the ones who their hearts are sealed. They are the ones who are living in darkness and they will continue to be in a state of darkness. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yahdi man yasha, Allah guides whomsoever He wills. And of things that aided Islam, or how Allah aided the Muslims at that time in Islam, is with the Islam of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa an as-sahabati ajma'in. And inshallah ta'ala we'll continue next lesson to speak about what expected to occur after this time بإذن الله تعالى. اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.